Hi, this is Dr. Judith Coché. Welcome. I have been a fan of marriage for a very long time because I have actually been married longer than a half a century to two wonderful men. The reason is that my first husband died young, and I have been very interested in the research on marriage, and I'm happy to report a couple of findings from a research study headed up by Dr. David Popenoe, and I hope that you find these useful. The research is particularly interesting for me because I have been a couples psychotherapist for a very long time and have helped couples transform their marriages for over 40 years. I'm going to tell you 3 facts about marriage. Perhaps the most frequent question that I get from single adults when I work with successful single adults as part of their own growth in psychotherapy is, where in the world do I meet other people that I might become interested in and want to couple with? The reason is that we are no longer as interpersonally direct. We don't go to church suppers as much as we go online, for example. As we get older, we lose the opportunity to meet brand new people because we tend to stay in communities. And as we have learned, the good news is that successful marriage is very often done between partners who did not meet each other entirely by accident. So marriage is not just a kind of a throwing up of the dice and seeing where they land. One of the things that we do know from the research is that a good choice in marriage partners is really not just luck of the draw. There are certain things that we can predict are likely to result in more successful marriages. One of them is to wait a little bit longer before you marry. Teen marriages are much more likely to end in unhappiness and divorce than marriages that begin when people are in their 20s or older. And that makes perfect sense because it takes some years of living to understand what we actually need and how we can differentiate between the fabulous energy of meeting someone that is so exciting and the level of commitment that is possible when people can plan their lives successfully together. So being a little bit older helps. The research tells us that moving into your 20s and 30s before you couple allows a level of life experience which will benefit both you, your partner, and any children that you produce thereafter. A second finding that makes common sense and is useful to know is that sharing people in common is very often a good predictor of a solid married life later. Knowing people from church, knowing people from school, knowing people from your community gives you something in common that is likely to then benefit you as you get to know each other more closely. Many people, in fact about 60% of people who marry, are introduced by family or friends or another part of a deep social network. It makes sense that we tend to trust the people that we know. The third finding, which may surprise you, is that college-educated people tend to feel more successful about their marriages as time goes on than people who have less education. And I don't think that means necessarily a 4-year liberal arts college. I think it means that some way of understanding the universe that is more advanced than we get by graduating high school is likely to teach us to ask good questions. And there is probably nothing more important about being part of a successful marriage than learning to ask good questions. Do you ask good questions in your marriage? How were you introduced? Are you glad that you were introduced? How old were you when you met the person that you have fallen in love with and married? See how you compare with these 3 findings about what leads to marital success. I wish for you and those you love a very successful married life if that is your choice. Take good care.